meeting of the executive on the 25th of October. I do have one apology this morning from Councillor Richard Dew. And before going any further, I will just introduce the members who aren't members of the executive who are in attendance this morning. I think I've captured everyone. We've got Councillor Ken Hughes, Councillor Trevor Lloyd-Hughes, Councillor David Roberts and Councillor Glyn Haynes in attendance this morning. Can I also, at the beginning of the meeting, wish Councillor Jeff Heavens a speedy recovery, who is in hospital. So I'll go around the officers. Good morning, everyone. Starting with Anwen Morgan, the Chief Executive. Good morning. Mr. Mark Jones. Good morning. Ms. Lynn Ball. Good morning. Mr. Hugh Percy. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Rhys Howard Hughes. Good morning. Mrs. Caris Edwards. Good morning. Gethin Morgan. Gethin is on holiday, so is not in attendance, Linus. Okay, thank you. Mr. Ned Michael. Good morning. Mr. Hugh Jones. Good morning, everyone. And then can I also welcome the translation team, Arwel and Nikki, this morning, and Meirwen and Anne from the committee section as well. I think that's everyone who is in attendance. Oh, and Arwel, the head of adult services, is here as well. So welcome to you all. And as regards the members of the executive, the vote later on will show who is in attendance. So on to the agenda. First item on the agenda this morning, declarations of interest. Have any member or officer got any declarations in respect of any item of his business this morning? No? Okay, thank you. So we'll go on to the second item on the agenda, urgent matters certified by the Chief Executive. Is there anything? No, there's no urgent matters this morning. Thank you. And we move on, therefore, to submit for confirmation the draft minutes of the meeting of the executive held on the 27th of September. Anyone willing to propose there a true record? Proposed by Councillor Robin Williams first, I think, and then Councillor Bob Parry, if you could second. Yes, is that okay? That's fine. And then I'll go around for the vote. Councillor Ian Williams raises his hand. Councillor Maidan Jones accepts. Councillor Alan Mummery accepts. Councillor Carwyn Jones accepts. And Councillor David Rhys Thomas accepts. Thank you very much. We'll go on next to the minutes of the corporate parenting panel held on the 7th of September. These are presented to be adopted. Anyone willing to propose those? Councillor Maidan Jones proposes. And can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Alan Mummery seconds. So I'll start with Ian. Councillor Ian Williams accepts. Councillor Carwyn Jones accepts. Councillor David Rhys Thomas accepts. Councillor Robin Williams accepts. And Councillor Bob Parry accepts. We'll go on now to the fifth item on the agenda, the forward work programme of the executive. And I'll ask Mr. Hugh Jones to lead on this. We've now updated the forward work programme to include new items between now and June. Beginning on the 29th, the next meeting of this committee, 29th of November, and I'll go through this list now. Item 3, the Welsh Language Promotion Strategy. Item 4, Welsh in Education Strategic Plan. Number 10, which is the Transitional Plan Anglesey. We just need to note to confirm this. Item 12, the Statement of Gambling Policy. Item 14, the Service Asset Management Policy. And 15, Corporate Asset Management Policy. Moving on, therefore, to December, the 13th of December, item 20, the Shared Equity Policy, a report from the Housing Service. Then on to February, the 14th of February, item 28. The Population Needs Assessment and the Social Service and Wellbeing Act, Wales. There are then two items. One for March, item 30, the Annual Equality Report, and then item 37, Annual Report on the Welsh Language Standards. And then finally, with the new items, there are items for June, items 39 to 42, which are the usual monitoring reports of performance dealing with Q4 monitoring reports 2021-22. Then finally, as regards a little bit of information with items that have moved or slipped. Item 13, that was down originally for today. The Community Benefits Contribution Strategy moves to the end of November. And then item 22, there is an application to move the local housing strategy from December to January the 24th. And then finally, again, one other item which changes, item 29, the AONB management plan, originally programmed for December. The intention now is to move it to February. Those are the additions and changes to the forward work programme as they stand at the moment. Thank you. Thank you, Hugh. Are there any questions or comments on the forward work programme at all by any member of the executive? No? If not, can I propose that we accept the forward work programme? And can I have a seconder? Karen Jones, seconds. I'll go around you. Accept. Councillor Miriam Jones accepts. Councillor Ali Murmury accepts. Councillor David Rhys Thomas accepts. And Councillor Robin Williams accepts. And Councillor Bob Parry accepts. Thank you. I'll go on now to item 6 on the agenda, the consultation on the level of council tax premium for second homes. And I transfer now to the portfolio holder, Councillor Robin Williams. Thank you, Robin. Yes, thank you. I'm going to ask Mark Jones to make a comment on this report first of all, and then I'm going to say a few words, but I'll hand over to Mark straight away. Thank you. I'll just take you quickly through the report. The report summarises what has come out of a consultation process that ran during the summer, and we received about 1,400 responses from different people to the consultation, including residents of Anglesey, owners of second homes, and also owners of units that run self-catering units on the island. Just an update, one or two of those figures. It does note in paragraphs 1.5 that there's around 950 properties that are defined as self-catering properties in Anglesey and have been registered for business rates. That number has now increased. It is about 1,300, so a significant number have moved over since that number has changed. The 950 goes back to March 2021, but since that, a number have moved across from the council tax to the business rates list. And also it notes that there are two authorities charge 100% as a second homes premium. Pembrokeshire, in additionally now, are recommending their full council to increase it to 100%. So there possibly will be 3 authorities in Wales charging the 100% premium on second homes. Just as regards the definition, and so that we are clear on the definition, a second home is used as the holiday home, but the legislation defines that the premium is paid on houses that have been furnished and that are not the main or sole residence of the taxpayer. So that can include people who live away from the island that come here on holiday and use a second home for that purpose, but also there are people who live on Anglesey who have a second home and who will have to pay that premium on the second home, which is in their ownership. As regards the units on the business rates list, it's true to say that there are a significant number, and this has come out in the consultation, that we've had emails from different people also saying that we run a full-time business, so there are some units that are self-catering, that are run as a full-time business and are available to let throughout the year. And there are others that have come over to the business rates list. They're used as a mix. People use them some time of the year for their personal use, and they are let for a period of time as well. And just go over the limit possibly to enable them to move over. So I just wanted to make that clear. We do have different types of units in these groups. As the report summarises, we had a significant number of responses to the consultation. We didn't ask for the personal details of everyone who responded. Possibly that would put people off from responding, but we did ask for their postcode, and over 12% of the responses recognised a Anglesey postcode, but there is a possibility that people who had a second home on the island were using their Anglesey postcode when they answered their question and not the postcode where they live the majority of the time. As regards to consultation, it was more or less clear that people and the residents of Anglesey saw the level of second homes affecting our communities in a negative manner, and that it was having a negative impact on the Welsh language. But those who were second home owners made it clear that they were contributing to the local economy of the island and that they were trying to contribute to the communities. A lot of the comments from the owners of second homes were trying to put that point across as well. But you could say that it was quite clear that the people of Anglesey supported increasing the premium and to use the premium for assisting young people, assisting the local economy, and helping to keep the communities that have been affected by the number of second homes. But those people paying the premium, of course, were less supportive and saw the premium as a way, a very blunt way of sorting the problem, and they made the point that the problem was more to do with the economy and the level of wages on the island, and that increasing the premium wouldn't solve the problem. And it was clear from the consultation that those two things were apparent. Over 400 comments, individual comments, were received. They're not included in the report because they'd be long for you to read all of them, but I tried to summarise them all in the table 3, and there were a number of comments on different aspects of increasing the premium, including the effect on the level of second homes. There was a lot of comments about increasing the premium itself and what the council should do with the premium, and what the council should try to do in addition to increasing the premium to try and help and solve the problems about the number of second homes on the island. Paragraph 3 then summarises the financial side of the premium, and table 4 and table 5 explain what would happen and how the council is funded through the formula by Welsh Government and the RSG grant and so on. And then in table 9, it's clear, or I try to make it clear, as people transfer if they transfer from paying the premium to business rates, that means there's a loss of income for the council in the year that it happens. But because of the way the formula works, the council would be compensated for the reduction in the numbers of homes paying the council tax through the formula. And that means if everything else stays the same, it's councils across Wales that fund that loss in our local income. So paragraph 7 then shows what the potential is if the premium increased from the figure of the moment from 35% to 100%. But in table 8, I try to factor in there what would the effect be if a significant number of homes moved over from paying council tax to business rate. So you can see it there. If, for example, the premium went to 50%, but that 30% of homes transferred over, the effect on the premium is 0. We'd receive no additional money because we lose those people. So there is a risk in increasing the premium. It does, and as the consultation shows, there is a possibility that people will try and use the legislation as it stands and the rules as they are to move over from paying the premium on their second homes to paying business rates or moving over to business rates. And once they're on that business rates list, they receive the business rates relief and the small businesses relief and don't pay tax at all. So it's a way that people try to avoid paying tax on second homes. So paragraph 4 then summarizes the benefits. Of course, it creates more income, and the level of income depends on where you today decide on the premium and also how many people then move over or avoid paying that premium. Of course, that premium also is there to try and not force, but encourage people to make a different use of their houses. And there is a possibility, as increasing the premium, that people will sell their homes or let them to local people, which that's the main reason really of the premium, but it's not there to just create income for the council. It is there to try and encourage people to make a different use of their homes, and that it comes back to the usual housing stock of the island by either selling them or letting them. So there is a possibility also, as the premium increases, that people make that choice that will reduce the income from the premium as well. In addition to that, of course, it does put more pressure on Welsh Government. Welsh Government, their answer is, well, we've given you the right to increase the premium to the councils, and that's the way they see best for council to manage and reduce the number of second homes in their areas. So as the council decide to increase the premium, it puts that pressure back on Welsh Government. If increasing the premium does introduce the numbers of second homes, it comes to the point where the council can turn around and say, well, we've done everything within our powers. It's over to you in Welsh Government to make that choice now. But again, we'll have to see, if you decide today to increase the premium, what effect that has on the numbers. At the moment, increasing it when it was increased from 25 to 35% didn't have much effect on the numbers. They were still about the same. The 2,500 houses that pay that premium at the moment, but that hasn't moved significantly since the premium has increased. Of course, there's a risk in increasing the premium, as I've explained. More people moving over, trying to say that Anglesey is their main residence, and there'll be a cost for us to try and collect more of the premium, and the risk of people trying to avoid it is higher. We're putting appeals in, people just not paying increases, and I'll have to get more resources to cover that risk. So the consultation, I think, is clear that the people of Anglesey support increasing the premium. But there are risks linked to that, of course, from losing houses over to business rates, and also there'll be more work to collect the premium. So that summarises what's coming out of the consultation, but happy to answer any questions from members. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'll go back now to the portfolio holder, Councillor Robin Williams. Can I also thank Mark for his report and his comments. As far as the premium, the council tax premium is in the question. I'm not sure personally by now if this is something that works. I feel quite, as Mark said earlier, a bit of a blunt instrument. There's many people, as we know, who have used the loophole recently and transferred to business rates. And as a result of the business rates relief they then get, they don't pay any tax on their houses. And I do think truly now that it is time that Welsh Government woke up, smelled the coffee and realised what effect the lack of action from them is having on our communities here in Anglesey. They need to be radical and make a decision that is totally essential. Not to stop tourists. I'm glad of the tourism industry and I'm proud of the tourism industry. We depend on the tourism industry here in Anglesey, but we must stop this pattern that we are seeing of houses in our communities being bought up as second homes, which are killing our communities and language. And it's not just now happening in the coastal villages and towns, it's happening in places where tourism hasn't been strong in the past because of the growth of things like Airbnb and so on. In my opinion, Welsh governments need to change planning rules or allow us to change our planning rules so that if somebody wants to change a house from being a residential house or rental house to be a summer house, as the need is with turning any building from being a residential building to be a business building, that they have to go through the planning process to do that. Also, I think it's time that they considered what they're doing in relation to the tax increasing of businesses, the tax paid on houses used as businesses. Maybe it's time that they consider to raise taxes on the income rather than the profit, or maybe charging VAT, considerable VAT on houses let for holiday purposes. And I think this as well, which I've said a number of times before, it's about time we consider and bring a tourism tax in Wales in the same way as is charged across the length and breadth of the world. Every single person that travels to anywhere in the world now, more or less, pays some kind of tax for traveling there, be it a resort tax, the tourist tax, whatever you want to call it. And we're not talking about massive sums of money here. We're talking about maybe £1 or £2 or £3 for each night that people stay in a particular area. The Welsh Government now have to consider all these types of things. At the end of the day, in my opinion, we as a local authority having the right to increase council tax premium, that it's not working. It doesn't stop people from coming here and buying houses and using those houses as second homes or holiday homes. When this story broke in the press last week, a number on Facebook and social media and so on jumped on the question of, oh, why doesn't Anglesey increase it to 100% as Gwynedd and Pembrokeshire are going to do from April onwards? And the reason for that is there's no evidence yet of what effect increasing the council tax premium to 100% will have in Gwynedd and in Swansea. And I'm scared really that more and more houses are going to be turned for business use because of that loophole that exists from Welsh Government, as they have increased the premium to 100%. So I have always said I prefer to see us taking small steps to increase the premium rather than jumping in to increase of 100%. So that's the reasoning behind it. That's my opinion, but I'm sure there'll be different, or that other people want to have their say on this issue, because this is a contentious issue. So at this point, I will open it out to others of the executive who want to speak. And if you want to come back to me, lead for the recommendations. No, thank you, Robin, for giving us that full context. Councillor Mummery. First of all, can I apologise how I'm going to refer to things that have been noted already? But to begin with, I support the recommendation to increase the premium from 35% to 50%, with the addition of the intention to increase it to 75% and 100% in the following years. I'd like to add the following comments as well, which come from many discussions that I've had on this subject. We, as one of the 6 Western councils, are like the Commute King, that's trying to stop the flood, which is now a tsunami. If I thought increasing the premium today with 200% would sort the problem, I'd be the first to support it. But it's obvious that we are going around in circles by trying to find an answer to this, while all the answers are in the hands of Welsh Government. Right was given to councils like us to increase 100% premium back in 2014 without closing the door on the transferring of business rates, and this year and last year allowed them a £13,000 for their worries. And Julie James this year made a statement saying she was going to give attention to 12 recommendations by Dr. Simon Brooks with a 3-pronged attack, in her words, adding that she would in the autumn a Welsh housing promotion plan. I'm not sure if she meant the autumn or October, but Julie, the clock is ticking. 10 councils in Wales charge a second homes premium, with 3 which are going to increase it to 100%, and 3 who charge 100% on empty homes as well. And we in Anglesey are one of those councils since 2019. And we also in Anglesey were one of the first to increase a premium of 25% on second homes in 2017, increasing it to 35% in 2019. Since then, it's been like a game of chess, with everybody waiting for one another to make the next move and see how much financial implications would be. In her report today of the recommendations, you'll see that 45% of the respondents made this if they were going to increase it to 100%. We as a housing department have benefits from 300 to 350,000 a year of the premium, and this money has helped us to offer grants to first-time buyers, to do properties up, and There were 37 successful applications. The risk of losing this money, therefore, steers my decision and leaves us without anything to fall back on if my concern is that it's empty promises that we'll receive again. House prices nationally are increasing significantly and making them out of reach for young people to buy, and therefore a national policy is needed rather than sporadic policies, without forgetting, of course, for employment and to get rid of the have and have nots which now exists. Thank you for the opportunity to give my opinion. Thank you, Alan, for those comments. And thank you for sharing exactly what has happened with the premium in the past and the positive effect it's having on the island. Are there any questions or comments, Councillor Marion Jones? Thank you, and can I thank those who have spoken before me that have given the background. I'm not going to go into things as detailed as that, but the discussions have been conducted over the last weeks and months regarding the premium, and it's important that the public to know and for the minutes to note that this is a compromise in the recommendations before us. I personally, at the beginning, was supportive of increasing the premium to 100% because that's the right thing to do, and also that the Welsh Government at the time weren't even recognising that there was a problem. If you go back through the statements and television programmes, and you'll see that ministers of the Welsh Government weren't even recognising that there was a problem to begin with a few months ago. By now, there is recognition, but as you've heard from Robin and from Alan, it's very little of movement that there has been, and I'm also asking the Welsh Government to take steps. I think the idea of a tourism tax is a very good one, and I don't understand why that hasn't been implemented already. But definitely there's a need for stopping of this flipping and the loophole you've heard about this morning. Another matter also was that we went out to consultation, and the recommendation in the consultation was that we were going to increase the premium to 50%. And I think that is another reason to keep it to that at the moment. I'm not going to go through all the arguments. You've heard the important points from Robin and Alan, but I do think that this compromise does reflect the different opinions that have been shown and expressed in the discussions that we have had. And I would say plainly that I am in favour of the recommendations that are put forward today. Thank you, Marion. Are there any other questions or comments that anybody else wants to make at all before I go back to the portfolio holder? Just looking around. No questions or comments. I think before we go to the recommendations, Robin, I think it's important that we note here that this isn't something that's new, and the requirements about our Welsh Government's request. I think since I've been the lead and you've been portfolio holder, we've been sending letters regularly to ask them to look at the premium and look at this. So this shouldn't come as a shock to any minister in the Welsh Government that this has been included in our recommendations today. And maybe that the next letters and next communications will get the due attention. So with that, I'll ask you to propose the recommendations, please. Yes, thank you. And I think you're making a very important point there, and I will say it in English.
Previous requests have fallen on deaf ears. A gobeithio'n wir trauma.
And hopefully this time, the Welsh Government will listen and realise that something needs to be done. Okay, so the recommendations, so this is quite long, so bear with me, as they say. So first of all, that the executive to recommend to the council that the premium on properties that are substantially furnished, but which are not deemed as the taxpayer's sole or main residence, i.e. second homes, is increased to 50% from the 1st of April 2022-23. Secondly, to let the taxpayers which are currently identified as being subject to the premium know as soon as possible, and that they will then be able to make alternative arrangements if they don't wish to pay the increased premium. And that doesn't sit very comfortable with me, to be honest, but it's something we have to do. Thirdly, that the executive reaffirm its intention to, 1, increase the premium on the properties that are substantially furnished, but which are not deemed as the taxpayer's sole or main residence, second home, to 75% from April 2023, and then 100% from April 2024. Secondly, continue to put pressure on the Welsh Government to do all it can to allow the council to control the number of second homes on the island. And thirdly, continue to request the Welsh Government to change the current legislation so as to ensure that the owners of second homes make a suitable tax contribution, either by means of council tax or through business rates. 1.4 then, the funding is released from the additional income generated to employ 2 additional members of staff in the council tax team from January 2022 to deal with the increased workload, which includes appeals and recovery, etc., and to allow the team to be more proactive in identifying tax avoidance. And based on the 2021-22 pay scales, a sum of 65,000 would be sufficient to meet the cost of pay and the associated costs. And fifthly, that the executive determine how to utilise the additional income, and that the proposals are included as part of the 22-23 revenue budget proposals, with the majority of the additional income being directed to funding schemes to help local people purchase their own homes and to promote the local economy. And the reasons for the recommendations are set out in the report, which is attached as Appendix 1. Thank you. Okay, thank you. And I think Councillor Alan Mummery's hand has shot up to second those. Are you correct? Yes, happy to second that proposal. Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to the vote now, starting with Councillor Ian Williams. In favour? Councillor Marion Jones? Yes, I support that as well. Councillor Carwyn Jones? Agree. Councillor David Rhys Thomas? You're on mute, Councillor Thomas. I'm not sure about the wording second homes, but I support the recommendation. And Councillor Bob Parry, support. Okay, thank you. We move on therefore to the 7th item of the agenda, which is the Public Services Ombudsman Annual Letter 2020-21. And I turn to Councillor David Rhys Thomas. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Since 2016, the Ombudsman has introduced an annual letter, and I'm glad there's been no complaints against any county councillors this year. It also talks about training in this area, and I'm glad to say also that the training has been completed for the year as well. So it is statutory that the Director of Function writes back to the Ombudsman before the 15th of November. So that's what we have here today. Thank you. I'll ask Ms Lynball if she wants to add anything to the report before opening it out to the executive. No, nothing. The main messages are in paragraph 3 of the report, which come with the Ombudsman. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the executive at all or questions? No? No comments or questions. Is there any, David, do you want to propose the recommendations then? Yes, it's a pleasure to do so, that the executive accept the recommendations for 2021 and authorise the Director of Function to write to the Public Services Ombudsman by the 15th of November 2021 to confirm that and to express that the Council will continue to monitor complaints and through that provide information to members to scrutinise performance. Thank you. And the hand of Councillor Robin Williams is up. Yes, happy to second that. Thank you, Robin. If I'll go round for the votes then, please. Councillor Ian Williams. Yes, happy to accept the recommendation. Councillor Maidan Jones. Agree. Councillor Alan Mummery. Accepts. And Councillor Carwyn Jones accepts. And Councillor Bob Parry accepts. Thank you very much for that. We move on therefore to the 8th item of the agenda, the annual performance report for 2020-21. This has been before the Scrutiny Committee last Monday and the Chair has joined us. So I hope we'll get a taste of that discussion from Scrutiny last week. But I'll first of all go to David Rhys-Thomas as the portfolio holder and then to the officer, Carys Edwards, Chair of Scrutiny, before opening it out then, if that's okay. So David, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Once again, I'd like to thank Gethin and his team for preparing the report for 2020-21. It's been before Scrutiny and today Executive and hopefully tomorrow the County Council, and the document has to be published before the end of October. The report gives us a valuable overview of what the Council has been successful in achieving over the last year. A year, of course, we have seen as a challenging one. It's also important to learn where we haven't been as successful and learn lessons as we move forward to improve the services of the Council. And of course, the main aims of the Council were to keep the residents and visitors and staff safe through the pandemic, ensure that our statutory services continue, and that we provide the best possible services for all. And of course, it's been a very challenging time, but I think we've been successful in providing the services we are supposed to statutory, and we've also done a lot of work and a lot of more. We've done more than that and been successful in a number of areas, and there's a long list of them in the report. I've got no time to go through them all now, but maybe might have more time in the full council tomorrow to see the successes that we've had as a council. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all council staff, officers and contractors for all the work that's been done throughout the year. It's nice to hear this morning that the booster vaccine is taking effect and the COVID levels aren't going up as high as we expected, but we are entering a very difficult period that we are concerned about, which is a very difficult period into the winter now. So thank you. That's the report for 2020-21. Thank you, David. Over to Carys now. Thank you. Yes, just to confirm what Councillor David Rhys-Thomas has said, and as you all know, of course, this is a statutory report and it is the final one under the current arrangements because of the change in the Local Government Act. I think it's difficult maybe to explain the variety of everything that was done over this unique year, but I think it has been recognised from all of you, fair play, and also in the scrutiny committee. Councillor Aled Morris-Jones will, I'm sure, update you from scrutiny committee, and just for you to know that the report will include those notes in the county council. Unfortunately, there wasn't time to get that to you this morning with those items added that Councillor Aled Morris-Jones noted, that was noted in scrutiny. So with those few words, thank you. Okay, thank you, Caris. Over to Councillor Aled Morris-Jones. Thank you, Chair. The scrutiny committee considered the report on Monday of last week, and the first thing we want to note is our thanks to all the staff for having been able to sustain services in such a challenging period during the pandemic, and still doing so, of course, but our thanks is to the staff, and the committee wanted that to be noted. We're very grateful to Gethin Morgan and his team for preparing the report. Once again, we were also a little concerned that the COVID figures were still increasing. That was noted. We also asked about figures of what was happening with businesses that were that were failing on the island, but up to now I haven't had any additional information on that. And the report is going to the full council tomorrow, and as we've already heard, the report has to be published before the end of the month. So the scrutiny committee does recommend the report to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for scrutinising the reports as a committee. Marion Jones has his hand up. Marion, do you want to come in? Thank you. As the portfolio holder for education, of course, I was looking especially at the part of the reports discussing education, and I noticed that there needs to be a slight amendment. It's just an explanation that's required. In the papers that are in front of us today, and from what Caris has said, it might be included in the full paper tomorrow. It's the last paragraph on page 14. So it talks about the schools being closed, but of course schools weren't closed. They've changed their ways of working to be care facilities. So the wording needs to be changed. So there is a variation to what is being said in the reports. So to make sure that it is said in the reports that schools provided care facilities and that schools were providing learning facilities from the home. So with that amendment, I would agree with the report. Thank you, Marion. Thank you for drawing our attention to that. A fair point. Anwen Morgan, you have your hand up. Yes, thank you very much, Chair. And following what Councillor Aled Morris-Jones has just said, as Chair of the Scrutiny Committee, certainly that is a very good question and a very appropriate question to be asked at scrutiny. The question asked was an update on the data that we have regarding the businesses that have come to an end as a result of the pandemic. And an email has been shared with the relevant members, the ONS, the Office for National Statistics. They're the ones who are responsible for preparing these. They were released in November 2020. And it discussed the changes. The information during the pandemic period hasn't been released yet. And the ONS hasn't noted when those figures will be available for 2020. So they're available for 2019, but not 2020. So when they're available, of course, we will share them with each elected member. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Are there any further comments or questions? I think it has been discussed and scrutinized. Any further comments? Okay, so we'll move to Councillor David Rhys Thomas and move to the and ask for the recommendation. So the recommendation is that this committee approves the report as a reflection of the authority's work over the period, and that it should be published by the statutory dates at the end of October. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ian Williams has his hand up. Thank you. I'll go round. Councillor Miriam Jones. Agree. Councillor Alan Mummery. Agree. And can I just add, I want to thank the staff for the way they worked over the past year and a half. Thank you, Alan. Councillor Carwyn Jones, accept. Councillor Robin Williams, accept. And Councillor Bob Parry, accept. Thank you very much to you. And can I also thank our members of staff as well. We're moving on now to item number 9 on the agenda, and this is the exclusion of the press and the public. So I'm going to turn to Lynn Ball now. I'm sorry for not forewarning you. So we have the press is going to be excluded for 9 and 10. So can we do both together rather than having to stop the recording, and so that things run more smoothly, and for fairness to people who are watching the webcast, so that we agreed to exclude the press and public now. Yeah, that is possible. Of course, the reasons are a little bit different for both items, but if you deal with the points, the relevant points to 10 and 12 together, then that is acceptable, just for the record. So we're going to take 9 now, and then 10, and then go straight on to 11 and 12. Can I ask then, item 9, so excluding the press and public regarding item 10, which is the highway damage. The only thing I have here, is there an explanation why we are excluding the public and press? Because on my documents I can't see anything. So I'm just turning to you, Lynn, for that explanation. So with regards to item 9, it is to do with legal advice, and there's no need for a pit test. So it just stands on its own. And then the next item, there is a reasoning for that one, so that's why I was saying that they were different. Okay, so can I deal with item 9? Can somebody propose that we do this, please? Proposed by Marion, then Robin. So I'll go around you all for the votes. And then I'll go straight to exclude the press and public.
Cynghorydd Alan Mummery.
Cytuno.
Cynghorydd Carwyn Jones.
Cytuno.
Cynghorydd David Rhys Thomas.
Cytuno.
A cynghorydd Bob Parry. Bob yn cytuno?
Cytuno.
Diolch Bob, diolch. A wedyn, dyn ni'n mynd ymlaen, wedyn ni eitem 11, cyf cael allan y wasg a'r cyhoedd ar eitem 12, sef datblygiad tai dros 10 o unedau ar dir ger stad diwydiannol pentraeth, ac y prawf fama ddim, mae'r adroddiad hwn yn cynnwys manylion am faterion ariannol gyda'r busnes penodol i adeiladu tai cyngor wrth ddatgelu'r gwerth ariannol contract posibl rhwng y cyngor a'r cwmni adeiladu lleol i adeiladu nifer penodol dau, ni fydd y cyhoedd a dosbarthwyr yn gweld faint mae'r cyngor yn fodlon talu am dau cyngor newydd cyn bod cytundeb pris wedi gytuno'n derfynol. ac y bydd felly, ia, wedyn dyna di'r rheswm le'n dros i ni beidio i ni orfod cael allan y wasg a'r cyhoedd ar yr eitem yna. Just checio bod fi'n iawn, felly dwi'n troi i chi am bleidlais. Mae cynghorydd Carwyn Jones yn cynnig, dwi'n meddwl, Carwyn, dyna ti'n neud? Ie, bril, diolch Carwyn. Os yna eilydd, os gwelwch chi ddau hwnnw?
Oes.
Meirion, diolch Meirion. A'i rownd y bleidlais, y cynghorydd Ian Williams.
Okay.
Diolch yn fawr, y cynghorydd Alun Mymru.
Cytuno.
Diolch, y cynghorydd Dafydd Rhys Thomas.
Cytuno.
Diolch, y cynghorydd Robin Williams.
Cytuno.
Diolch, a'r cynghorydd Bob Parry.
Derbyn.
Diolch, felly mi allwn ni gau allan o'r wasg a'r cyhoedd rwan a delio efo'r ddau eitem a dod ar gyfarfod i ben mewn ffordd ar y we, ie? Diolch. Mi wna i ddisgwyl i'r